Hi, we're speaking today with journalist, band producer, and now YA author Alexandra Leigh Young.
Hello.
Hi, Alex. Alex currently produces the New York Times podcast, The Daily. She produced tours for pop bands for 3 years before moving to South Korea as a freelance journalist. An assignment on K-pop for NPR's Radio Lab became the basis for Idol Gossip, her first novel for young adults. She lives in New York City, in Brooklyn. I'm here with Alex. I'm her editor, Susan Van Metre, and we're here at Kinokuniya in New York City. Hi, Alex.
Hello, thank you.
How are you today?
I'm doing well.
Good.
Thank you.
So your new book is titled Idol Gossip, and it's published by Walker Books US. We're part of Candlewick Press, and we're distributed by Random House. The book is the story of a Chinese-American girl with singing talent who is serendipitously scouted by a K-pop producer in a karaoke room. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yes, so Alice Choi, who's the protagonist of this book, she's 17 years old, and her biggest dream in life is to become a major pop singer. And so when her family moves to South Korea and she's discovered at that karaoke parlor, as you mentioned, she gets a chance to, at a spot as a trainee at one of South Korea's biggest entertainment companies, biggest K-pop companies. And over the course of the book, she has lots of trials and tribulations with her group mates and with a very snarky blogger who releases lots of gossip about her. So that's Idol Gossip. And if you read it, you love it.
Yay! So would you hold up the book for us, and would you make a sort of elevator pitch for it and then read a little section?
Sure, absolutely. Idol Gossip is about a 17-year-old Chinese-American girl who moves to South Korea with her family and gets discovered by her with her great singing talent at a karaoke parlor by one of South Korea's biggest entertainment companies. And Alice finds herself at a training facility for that entertainment company where she is the newest member of a girl group that is debuting in 5 months on one of the biggest K-pop stages in the world. And, you know, Idol Gossip is really about, you know, having big dreams. It's about the idol fanship relationship, and it's also got a very healthy dose of scandal.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Buy this book.
Buy this book. You will love it.
So that gives us a little bit of a sense of how you came to call it Idol Gossip. But do you have any other comments on your inspiration?
As you remember, I've sent you like 50 options for a title when we were looking for it. It was not the most obvious title at first, but I think, you know, if there was a second title for Idol Gossip, it would have been American Idol.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, but it's already been taken.
Yeah.
And of course, you know, Idol, that's what K-pop stars are called. They're called idols. And so I definitely wanted to get that in the title. And, you know, Idol Gossip, obviously a play on words. It's a pun on idol, I-D-L-E, gossip. And gossip is a huge part of this novel. Each chapter starts with an interstitial, a blog post from V, who is the snarky blogger that I mentioned.
Yeah, and I think that speaks to the importance of fans, K-pop fans, to the story. Can you speak a little bit more to that, why you wanted to fold them into the narrative?
Yeah, I mean, in each of those interstitials, it's not only the blogger that you hear from, but you also hear from the fans. You see like their comments underneath her posts, and then also they play a role in the plot of the story as well. And honestly, you know, as a K-pop fan, I know that they do play a huge role in the industry itself. I always talk about the idol-fan relationship. It is very much like a two-way street. Like idols take care of their fans and fans take care of their idols. So it was really important to me, like, you do not tell the complete story of the K-pop industry without mentioning fans. And we'll probably talk about this a little later, but they do play an outsized role in like the way the movement and the industry, changes in the trajectory of it. So I definitely wanted to reflect them. And honestly, so much of my research was based on reading their online comments, reading netizens' comments online. So I wanted to reflect that as well.
So if you are a fan, what would be some things that you take away from the book? And if you aren't a fan, what would be your takeaway?
That's a really good question. If you are a fan, there are little Easter eggs all over the book that I think you'll probably recognize. References to actual scandals that happened in real life, and also just getting an inside look at, what is it actually like to be a trainee. It's a very rigorous thing, to say the least, to train to become a K-pop idol. And if you're not a fan, really anyone who has an incredible dream, has ambitions to be, a famous singer for one, but also just really wants to make their passions come true, I think could really relate to Alice, who will do, whatever it takes to make her dream come to reality.
Yeah, and that's interesting. I was just thinking about the fact that Alice herself is not necessarily a huge K-pop fan, but quickly becomes immersed in the world. What can you tell us about Alice as a character?
Yes, so Alice, obviously, when she starts, she's really never heard of K-pop. It's her little sister who is the fan and ends up explaining the whole world to her. But she, this opportunity lands in her lap, and she does want to be a singer, and she realizes, hey, maybe this wasn't my exact dream, but it is, if I examine K-pop, it is actually something that could fulfill my dream. And so she's like, let's do it, let's jump right in. Just like I think I was when I was a teenager, she doesn't do her research into what, daily life in the training facility might be, and she just dives in headfirst into this new world where she really is a fish out of water. She's, not only does she have to train to sing, but she has to train to dance, she has to do, acting lessons, and she has to get along with her girl group, and she doesn't speak Korean. So she really is an outsider, but she's trying so hard to be an insider. And I would say, I very much relate to Alice as, even now as an adult. I work at the New York Times. It's an incredible, public-facing institution, and I really relate to, having to try really hard and strive for something, even if it's a difficult journey along the way.
Yeah, something I really love about Alice is that she does have this dream that she really wants to fulfill, but she's also really conflicted, and it makes her go about achieving it in this kind of lurching, a little bit ambivalent way. But Olivia, her sister, is pure enthusiasm, a very, very lovable character, and as you mentioned, a huge K-pop fan. And I think that sister relationship, where sisters are so supportive of each other, is still relatively rare in YA, and I'd love to hear more about your thoughts in creating that relationship.
Yeah, because Alice is, she's an anxious and unsure character, at least in the beginning. She really does need that push, and so I wanted her to have the support system in Olivia, but also I really wanted to reflect the pure, unabashed love for K-pop in a character, and that's Olivia. She just, she is obsessed, and she just loves her idols so much, and I also, without giving away spoilers, Olivia becomes immersed in the idol world as well through her sister, and I really wanted to portray, what would it be like to be an incredible fan and then get to walk into that world too. But yeah, I don't think, obviously you don't achieve your dreams on your own. There's always someone or people behind you to help you get there, and they have their difficulties along the way, but ultimately Olivia and Alice love each other, and they're there for each other too.
Yeah, there are other characters, I think, who give Alice a lot of support. Some support she doesn't accept as readily as others. Can you talk a little bit about some of the other characters in the book?
Yes. So Alice needs some pushing along the way, not just to achieve her dreams, but to, you know, make a space for herself in the academy. One of her best friends is Sohyun, who is a very famous member of a girl group called EXO Kiss, and she needs a little bit of help finding her groove with her girl group, and Sohyun is there to teach her, like, it's not gonna happen right away, you need to be patient, but you also have to try. And Sohyun I love very much. She's based off of one of my best friends, who's just like a very extroverted, hilarious person, and provides a lot of comic relief in the book. Some other characters, of course, Sori, her mentor, her teacher, her singing teacher, who is was earlier in her life was also a Korean pop singer. And then there's June, who is actually Olivia's ultimate bias, her idol of choice. And over the course of the book, Alice and June become closer and closer, and she learns a lot about the fan idol relationship through June as well.
So you said you relate to Alice. Are there other characters who have sort of autobiographical elements to them?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I think, you know, there's a little part of me in her sister Olivia and in her best friend Sohyun, in that I am a very loud, very extroverted, celebratory person. And so, you know, some of my friends and family have laughed about, like, this sort of, like, larger than life reactions that those characters have to Alice's successes. And I always think that's funny, because it's like, no, that's actually how I would react. That's how I text. That's how I support my friends. But going back to Alice, no, it's funny, like, in writing Alice, I really had to do kind of like a psychological deep dive on myself and say, like, where do my anxieties come from and how do they get triggered and crop up in real life? And that really helped me understand Alice and write about, you know, when she gets defensive or when she gets scared, or when she doesn't relate to other people, like, really understand where those feelings come from.
And like Alice, you moved to South Korea as a young person. What were you doing in South Korea, and how long were you there?
Yeah, so I was very, very lucky. I landed an artist residency in a very small town called Incheon, or Dong Incheon, which is kind of close to the airport. It's like about 2 hours away by subway from Seoul. And I lived there and in that small town and made lots of friends there. And through that residency, I did a performance art piece around Korean Thanksgiving, and I also started researching and reporting on the K-pop entertainment industry there. And the research that I did there was the basis for the pitch that I made to NPR's Radio Lab, and then eventually became my first podcast episode with them called K-Paparazzi. So, and then while I was there, I mean, it wasn't just researching the industry, I also fell in love with K-pop itself, and I went to some live music shows. I actually met an idol one day who just appeared on the street in front of me like a mirage. I met South Korea's first paparazzi company, Dispatch. I went to their offices and I've interviewed them. So I really got pretty deep in the industry there. And yeah, I fell in love with bands like Girls' Generation and Big Bang, and just really got deep. So
what do you miss most about South Korea?
Oh, what do I miss most? I mean, I made such incredible friends there, and I think I miss them a lot. They really taught me about South Korean food. They always made fun of me for my favorite food is bibimbap, which is basically just vegetables on rice. And they're like, come on, girl, we have like way more interesting food than that. But I loved it so much. And they actually made that for me on my last night there. So I miss them a lot. I also just miss, this is really specific, but they have these underground malls at all of the subway stations, almost all of them. And I love that you can just pop out of a subway and you're like immediately immersed into that like lively commerce thing, like just stall after stall of like whatever you might need, and I miss that. I mean, I live in New York and we have subways here too, but it's not the same.
Yes, our subways. I guess Grand Central, you can pop out and see some shops, but that's
about it.
That's so interesting. The food was the thing one of the things you miss most, because that's something I love about the book, is there's a lot of talk about food, because poor Alice has to kind of be careful about what she's eating, so she's always longing for whatever everyone else is eating. So what are things about South Korea that you don't miss as much?
You know, this is really also very specific. One thing that I could never find where I lived was good sushi. They had a sushi restaurant there that they served their sushi frozen. And my ex-boyfriend who lived there at the time with me, we tried eating it, but we could never make it work for us. So we ended up traveling to Japan afterwards to get that like good sushi seafood fix that we wanted. Yeah. But every other thing we ate there was fabulous.
So what years were you in South Korea?
2014, I think I was there. 2014, 15.
So so that's a few years now, and what are your feelings about kind of the growth of K-pop since then?
Yes, it's funny. When I was there, this was just starting to happen, and I think now it's kind of blossomed, which is, I think the industry, I was there during what we call like the second wave. There was the first wave, which was like early 2000s, and then I was second wave, and now we're kind of what we call the third wave. And I think the first wave was a very like, it was very buttoned up. You didn't know very much at all about your idols, and what you did know was extremely manufactured by the industry there and the entertainment companies. And what you saw in the second wave was you started seeing that open up a little bit. I mean, idols still during the second wave wasn't looked kindly upon if they were dating somebody, and if they were dating somebody, it was definitely like a plant by the entertainment companies. Like, it was all set up by them. Even the paparazzi photos at the time, it was like all like very manicured. And I think now we're getting to a place where, you know, fans accept that their idols are real people who fall in love, and maybe they fall in love with somebody that they maybe don't like as much, but that's okay because they're human just like us. And I think we're really seeing like an opening up, which is wonderful because it means that the idol experience isn't so restricted anymore. So I'm hoping it keeps going in that trajectory.
So that's interesting. So you feel that now the idols can express themselves a little bit more, be sort of more authentic, and that seems to be reflected in maybe their politics as well. Are we learning a little bit more about how they feel about the world, and how do the fans respond to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's not as, you know, probably not as open as a lot of Western fans would like it to be or would hope it would be for their idols. You see a lot of idols now, you know, if they're going to be very open about their politics, especially about South Korean politics, oftentimes that means they have to break with their entertainment companies, or they have to break with their current group and try going out solo, and then they can be very open about things. But I think the biggest difference is that, you know, fans themselves, they are very supportive of that. It's like, well, if you need to break away from your group or you need to break away from your entertainment company, we trust that you did that because you needed to for whatever personal reasons. And so, and fans are very, like, not only supportive of that, but often, like, jump in, like, they'll be vocal about whatever political causes idols have, and they'll help them out. They'll help them, like, create a platform for them. So, yeah, I think that's definitely starting to happen more and more too.
And it seems as if fans themselves are flexing their political muscle. We've seen them organize in interesting ways.
Yes, fans have a lot of power because there are so many of them, and so we've seen them, you know, for instance, like with the Trump rally in what year was that? it was in
2020.
2020. Was that 2020? Gosh, that seems like so long ago. And you know, buying up a lot of all the tickets or reserving all the tickets so that no one would show up. And like, I think what I was trying to capture in Idle Gossip was that like the fans' ability to do like come together and do something really powerful in like a really public way. And I just think that's really cool, like the kind of organizing that they're able to do when they like all get behind a cause. Of course, Idle Gossip also shows the dark side of that, but in the end, I think fans are incredibly supportive, and they'll go to great lengths to take care of the idols and the causes that they care about.
Yeah, without giving too much away, the fans organized to sort of send Alice a very powerful message, I would say. And this is a question I have. Where do you see Alice going with that relationship after the book?
That's a great question. I think, you know, she starts to realize the power of her own fans. She starts to get an inkling of that, like, towards the end of the book. And then I always imagine, like, her being just blown away. She doesn't quite believe it when June says to her, like, our fans will come through, our fans will come through. And I think it's because Alice like feels herself that she's a victim. And so I think it's going to be a big turning point for her when she sees the fanship come through for her and in such a supportive way. And I think it's going to be very humbling for her. And she's probably going to want to change some things in terms of how she supports her group mates and how what lengths she's willing to go to for her group A-list. So I tried to do that in a way that wasn't spoiling.
Yeah, you did such a good job. So we've talked about what's next for Alice. What's next for you? What are you working on?
Ooh, I am still working at the New York Times daily podcast. So that's my day life. But at night and on the weekends, I've been writing a second manuscript, this time about a teenager who works behind the scenes in the pop world as a roadie for a touring pop band. And Idle Gossip has a little flirtation with romance, and then the second one, I went all in on a romance. So I'm really excited to write about flirting and all kinds of good stuff like that.
Excellent. So Alex, could you read us a section of Idle Gossip?
Absolutely. Okay, so I'm going to read a little section of Idle Gossip. This takes place right after Alice auditions with hundreds of other people at the Top 10 Entertainment auditions. And after the dance segment and the singing segment, everyone is told that they're dismissed except for Alice. And so now she's walking up to the judges panel. Alice Choi, it's a pleasure to meet you, said a woman in a maroon blazer. Her hair was swept up into an elegant knot, and her lipstick was exactly the color of her blouse. My name is Jackie Kim, and I oversee the girls' wing of Top 10 Entertainment's residence for trainees and idols. Many of the English-speaking residents call me Miss Jackie. She extended a hand with long red fingernails so glossy they looked wet. Nice to meet you, I said, shaking her hand. I continued down the row of judges, exchanging handshakes as I went. The woman from the Noribang cupped my hand in between her palms and said, "Good job, Alice Choi." She had a kind of squinty, wistful expression, like the one my mom gets when she's really proud of me. When I reached the end of the table, Miss Jackie introduced the man with the orange glasses, who was still busy on his phone. And this is Kim Sung-min, or Mr. Kim. He's Top 10 Entertainment's founder and CEO. Mr. Kim offered me a limp hand and a grunt, and then returned to his texting. Please tell us, where are you from? Asked Miss Jackie. I'm from California. Northern or Southern? San Francisco. And you speak any Korean? I looked at my scuffed up shoes. Not so much. Miss Jackie smiled tightly. That is quite all right. Language can be taught. Stage presence cannot. I take it you've had several years of voice training, yes? Yes, I said, lifting my eyes back up to meet hers. I've been taking voice lessons since I was about 8. I was also in a chorus back home. Alice, I'm going to cut to the chase, said Miss Jackie. You have a singular voice, the likes of which this panel only encounters once or twice in a career. I stood completely still, trying not to blink for fear of missing even one syllable of what she was saying. However, to be perfectly frank, oh, here it comes, the dancing. Your dancing is subpar. I knew the dancing would screw me. I could almost see the wavy lines forming as the dream sequence melted back into reality. We are searching for the fifth and final member of a debut girl group, and the hope was that she could be a capable singer and dancer. Miss Jackie paused to consider me, pursing her maroon lips. However, oh thank God there was a however, it would be foolish not to accept you into the program considering your immense singing talent. I've seen dancers in similar shape rise to our standards with the proper training, but to meet the level of excellence we require of our idols, you would have to commit to a rigorous dance training schedule. Is that something you would be willing to do? Yes, I am. I was so relieved they were still considering me. I probably would have agreed to tattoo top 10 entertainment on my forehead. Very good. We spent some time deliberating on the matter, and we are confident that under our instruction, you have the potential to become one of top 10 entertainment's brightest stars. I hadn't moved, I hadn't blinked, and now I wasn't breathing. I could see the woman from the Noribong out of the corner of my eye, and she was leaning forward, nodding in agreement. Thus we are prepared to offer you an artist contract, said Miss Jackie. Oh, thank you so much, I gasped. This was one of those instant classic moments in life, the kind you tell your grandkids about and they say, "We know, Grandma, you've told us a million times already." I couldn't see Olivia from where I was standing, but it was so amazing she could have this memory too. As you know, Top 10 Star Academy is an elite training center where only the dedicated succeed, continued Miss Jackie. Only a fraction of our trainees debut, and then only a fraction of those become idols. I understand, I replied. The soles of my feet were practically hovering off the ground. It's enough just to know I'll be able to train with your voice teachers. Becoming a top 10 idol can change the trajectory of your life. Miss Jackie placed her folded hands on the table in front of her. But make no mistake, the life of a trainee demands huge sacrifices. As such, we recommend you take some time to consider our offer and review the terms of our contract. She nodded to a woman sitting next to her, who handed me a thick stack of paper with a black business card paperclipped to the top page. I took it from her directly, as if she were handing me my own beating heart. I took it from her delicately, as if she were handing me my own beating heart. That is a generic contract and my business card. If you and your parents approve of the terms, our lawyers will draft a personalized contract, and once signed, you will move into the Star Academy immediately. Thank you again, really, I whispered. I stood there in front of them, holding the contract tight to my chest. The weight of it seemed to be the only thing keeping me tied to planet Earth.
Thanks so much, Alex. I love Miss Jackie's red fingernails. Like, you have to sign this contract in blood, Alex. It was great to hear. So we really enjoyed learning more about your book and your relationship to the world of K-pop. And I just want to let listeners know that Idol Gossip is published by Walker Books US. It's available now. Look for the link in the description box below to get your own copy. Alex is signing copies here. And these are available, but only while supplies last. Only while supplies last. I've never said that to a camera before.